okay, maybe life is not a joke. I would rather have a job than be homeless. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. I know I just made the opposite video. I just want to give the other perspective. It's rough. The first few days of being homeless, you get an artificial high. You're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I don't have to report to anyone. And I'm just out here in nature, enjoying the beautiful existence that is this life. And you hit a wall. You hit a wall real quick. Maybe 3 to 7 days. And that wall tells you, oh my gosh, camping is tiring. Being out in nature all the time will wear you down. And you have not been conditioned for this life. Because if you're like me, or like most normal people, we've been living in structures. For a while now, we've been living in structures. And we are not conditioned for being in the wild. As the birds go by. It's intense. The sun beats you down. Your psyche is worn. Your mental health is challenged. You're out there in nature. Just you and a friggin' mountain lion. 1v1. No, it's not like that. But you're trying to go around all these campgrounds, and it's hard. It's hard. You keep going around, and it's tough. I found myself hanging out in my car just because I wanted to be alone. I never got any time alone anymore. I'm always around other people, and I didn't want that. It was I got spoiled having my own house in New Mexico for a while that I did, and I was alone for so long. We get conditioned for that. Whatever we're doing, we're gonna get conditioned for. And because I was used to being alone, when I am always constantly having to be around people, my brain freaks out. It doesn't know exactly what to do. It doesn't know how to exist in the world and be. And maybe you don't need to shock your system like that. Maybe if there's any way to make transitions more gradual in what you're trying to do, whether you are going to be homeless or whether you are going to go back into working a job, if there's any way to make it an easier transition or slower, my advice, go for that. Because having a sudden shock to the way you live in the world, that's really intense. It's really intense. And it's exacerbated where I am right now in Kauai, in Hawaii. Hawaii, am I here? But I do feel a bit lost being out here so far out in the ocean. It's difficult. It's difficult out here. If you're lucky, you can commit to a long-term situation where you're renting a room for $1,200 a month. That's the best case scenario, basically, out here. And it's rough. It's tough. And that's the bare minimum, you know. You'll have your own room. And I just think that we can sometimes overestimate what we're capable of. For me, I came out here to Hawaii. I've never been out here. And I was like, oh yeah, 3 months, 4 months. I could do that. No. After 2 months, I'm begging to go back. I'm so lucky that my tenant that I rented out my little off-grid house in New Mexico to has decided to leave early. That's the only saving grace that I have in my life right now. Otherwise, I'd just be out here in the wind. And just to be without a home, it feels like being in a tornado. It feels like you have no control over anything. And I do have a little bit of money saved up, and so I just forked it over for a hotel room, and it costed me $233, and that was a steal apparently. Usually it's $300. And that's the America we're living in today. $300 hotel rooms, $25 meals. It's tough. It's not easy to go out and make that what you need to live in a day as a transient person. So you try to cut costs. You go camping. You make your own food. You go to Walmart. It's not an easy solution. It's not a guaranteed fix. You are always getting what you're paying for. And I just think if you really want to get value out of a situation, maybe showing some conservative tactics is the best way. Staying home a bit more. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Not going to the most alluring destinations that you have in your mind. You know what they say is you should always be planning a vacation, but not necessarily always going on one. Because as you plan, you get a lot of the same dopamine and the same benefits as you actually would if you actually went somewhere. And that's one of the most beautiful hidden tricks that you can do, is that, yeah, you want to go to Hawaii, like a place like this, but could you really afford to pay $300 a night a hotel room for 10 nights and figure something out where you try to meet people and get a housing deal? And it's challenging. It's never been more challenging than it is now, 2025. Very difficult to just be out here like this. Be out in the world, exposed to all the elements, exposed to other people. I'm just trying to walk around. I'm noticing everywhere I go, there's just people. And it's hard, it wears on me. I feel this intensity, having to be around others. Every parking lot is completely crowded. Like, look at this. He's just trying to find a parking spot and he can't. That was me all day. There are 2 car codes coming right now. Look at them, and they're trying to like figure out which way to go. It's so intense. It's so intense, and it's getting dark, and they're trying to make it to their hotel room. Everyone's just trying to get by, you know? So we cut up as best we can, apparently, you know, and try to fix something when we can. But that's hard too, being a mechanic. Oh my gosh. Not a good profession to be in right now. Everybody wants their car fixed and nobody wants, you know. It's a lot that goes into being a mechanic, I know. So I'm lucky. I've been doing a good side hustle, which is poetry, typewriting, poems on demand, wherever I can, for money, wherever I can, being a little bit transient. And that's been working for me. If you want to know more about that, you can look down below. I have a book with all my best poems, and they also say how to do that as a typewriter, how to be a professional poet on the street, on demand with a typewriter. And so if you really want to get in and making good money, that's a good way. Just make up a bunch of poems. It's really easy. But back to my point, it's getting really hard. It's getting really challenging to be out here just winging it, just being homeless. Could you really handle it when it comes down to it? Your humanity breaks down. That's the hardest part for me. Your humanity erodes, and you're just in survival mode. Just because you've been exposed to nature for so long. And it's kind of a beautiful thing too, the way you get exposed to nature. I mean, nature is so beautiful, right? But in small doses. We don't need to be going to the extreme. So I just want to send compassion out for everybody struggling with being houseless right now. And a warning sign for everybody that's thinking about going into homelessness, that it's just not easy, and that it's easy to get sucked into and just say, oh yeah, I can wing it, I can go camping, I can do this, I can do that, I'm tough. But then you get out here for 3 to 7 days and you hit that wall. You don't want to be out here anymore. And then if you don't have that money for a hotel room, I think something in you would slip. Some sort of mental health thing would slip. And that's what I worry about, because that's how you lose people. That's how people slip down into the unseen crevices of dark side homelessness, where you're trying to do these back alley deals and prostitution and drugs, and you're losing yourself. You're just losing yourself. And that's how it feels. It's like nature is eroding who you were, and you have to get yourself back. And do you really want to come back? Because if you didn't really believe in yourself, have a big ego that you believe that you were a good person, you may not necessarily want to go back to who you were. So you just end up losing yourself. That's the danger of becoming homeless and just trying to go out into the beach in Hawaii or California or wherever you are. And do you really want that? Maybe you don't. Maybe you should take this as a warning. I love you so much. Thank you for being here.